Just fucking do it. Subscribe now. Well, you can either buy it at the same level of the $6 million I gave her, which she'd be foolish to do that, because if we're in there to build her business up, why would she accept the same amount of money 3 years down the road that I gave her now? She wouldn't. So there's all kinds of fancy formulas. And normally, if these deals are going to fall apart, it's because you're finger fucking with the formula too much. I mean, simplicity works. So you can tie it to inflation. You can tie it to the price of, we used to do it to the price of oil. You can do it to, Federal Reserve rate. There's all kinds of indices to tie it to. But the bottom line is you're tying the second tranche, the 40%, to some future valuation. Now, sometimes the doc sees that in 3 years, the business is doubled in size. So that means, roughly speaking, the 10 million value is now worth 20 million value. She had to practice 23 years, 25 years, and these hot rods, these whiz kids, which God knows you're not, double the value of the business. A lot of the businesses you buy will have either no websites or archaic websites. A lot of the businesses you will buy have, now this is not exaggeration. Now, of course, she's a young, attractive, and sophisticated woman, so I'm sure this example where they keep their cash in a cigar box. They have no financial records, She doesn't look like the cigar box kind of gal to me, but maybe she is, okay? So, but the bottom line is that they also don't understand marketing, blah, blah, blah. So it's not that difficult, and I already told 19 or 20, the same thing you do, I'm partial owner of. It's not unusual to double the business. It isn't. Maybe not in 3 years, but sure as hell in 4 or 5. So now she may get seller's remorse. She may decide, well, maybe I don't want to sell. So you got to lock her in so there is some sort of sale. You don't want to, but some of the guys and the gals, they decide, no, I'll exit when you exit your group, the consortium, right? The big consortium. And so, so you may exit in 5-7 years, and the business may have tripled in business. And so that 40% is now worth the equivalent of 120% if it goes up twice again. And sometimes the docs leave and go into competition with you. Well, fuck, if I'd known it was this goddamn easy, now you could. We have docs that have come through here over the years that, their first acquisition is them. Now, we haven't talked about this, but your first acquisition could be you. Okay. And so after all those years of medical school, they didn't teach you anything about this, I know. Okay. But the 60-40, the 60-40, and the banks love it. The guy that has made the 60-40 more or less infamous for us is a guy named Jason Nagy from Adelaide, Australia. And for those of you that have not been to Adelaide, don't waste your time. If there was going to be a rectum for the planet, it would be Adelaide, Australia. Okay? And having been to Adelaide a couple times, but he rolled up radiology practices, non-recourse money, which we'll talk about again tomorrow, and no personal guarantee. He is now exiting radiology. He also, one of the few guys, and I don't recommend you do it, he rolled up 2 industries at once. I'm even hesitant to mention this because everybody's going to get fucking delusions of grandeur. He rolled up 2 industries at once. IT, hot, right? And he's exiting that now. And so he's got 2 big exits, and now he's going into a third, which will remain nameless because I don't want to give him any more competition. And he's fighting with Chinese private equity, Chinese hedge funds. The good news is the Australians are racist. The white Aussies are racist. They would rather sell to him than a Chinese private equity or hedge fund. Not that the Chinese are doing anything wrong. Believe me, I don't mean it that way. But they would just rather good old boys from Adelaide, and he sounds like them. Although he tells me there are Chinese people that have Australian accents. I've never met one. But they tell me that that's true. I've never met one. Okay, so he's made the 60-40 famous, and you're going to see him, I think, tomorrow. And when he was here boxing, he was one of the guys that got seriously hurt. Not on film, but in reality. I recommend you start with 100% seller finance. Have you ever thought about selling your business? And then you work down, but you're not going below that, 60-40. This is, now, when you do 100% seller finance, kids, you got no money to put in your pocket. Now, some of you in this room will consider that a downside, since you're living off the fumes of your pipe on your 57 Chevy now. But your your accountants will understand it. Your lawyers will understand it because they're not living off the cash flow. Your board will even understand it. At some juncture, this is a few years ago, we did 7 or 8 deals and we had no distributions. We hadn't paid the accountants or lawyers even. They were planning on a big exit to a strategic where we're going to sell the whole kit and caboodle and everybody was going to get even, the lawyers, accountants, and the board members. And then one of the board members, the second accountant on the board, not the CFO, wanted to meet me for a coffee. And they know I don't meet for anything. But anyway, I met with him and he said, nobody's asked, Dan, because we all have faith in you. I was the chairman. And he said, but, it's been 3 years. Are we ever going to get any money out of this fucking hog? I said, yeah, the next board meeting we're going to talk about it. But I'll tell you, since you asked me, we're exiting. And if that exit doesn't work out to the strategic, we're refinancing the whole thing with a commercial bank. And we were going to refinance for about 230% of what our cost was. 230%. And we were going to pay the lawyers, the accountants, and we were going to give distributions. And you don't give your board members distributions based on dividends, because if you pay dividends, then all shareholders have to get paid. We do it based on bonuses, based on productivity and doing the deals. And you're going to have 1 or 2 worker bees on your board. In other words, they like to kick the tires. They like to go out there and beat the price down. They go out there and poke the seller in the eye, so to speak, metaphorically. And then you'll have a couple of couch potatoes that don't want to go out. Okay? The couch potatoes are normally the ones their wives have died, so the wives are at home nagging them. But it's all derivative of the relationship at home. They're past the bouncing the kids on the knee, grandkids and kids. They can't play tennis anymore because they got artificial knees and they can't move around. They can't play golf, they get too tired. And if their wife is gone, she's gone to her maker, then they just want to sit and watch ball games, football, baseball. But you'll have a couple of worker bees, but don't wear them out. And whatever you do, don't wear the chairman out. Because you only bring the old dog in for the big deals. Okay, even though he may be volunteering, but don't bring him. You want it to mean something when the chairman comes. Now, as Sally would tell you, our banks and lawyers, they don't want me at meetings. Since about, maybe 10, 15 years ago. And they tell Sally, Mrs. Peña, Mr. Peña's busy. We don't really need him at this meeting. I'm sure you can handle it all. Because I bust balls just to bust balls. Fuck you, strong email to follow is in my repertoire. It's an arrow in my quiver. And some people get offended by that. That's not my problem. So don't wear out your chairman, chairperson or chair-it, whatever you got. And, but normally you'll have 1 or 2 worker bees that like to go out there and kick the tires and, get away from their house or whatever. But all from the 3 million less deals, your board will be more than qualified to do the due diligence or the quality of earnings report. Above $3 million, even though they still may be qualified to do the due diligence, what if they fuck it up? You're going to sue your own board for fucking up the quality of earnings? No. Will you sue KPMG? Yes. Will you sue PwC? Yes. Because they have deep pockets with large malpractice insurance policies. Now, some of you, I'm sure you're all too smart and sophisticated to say this, It's in the templates. You're going to go tell PwC, we were taught that we want you because you're easier to sue. At least one of you in this room will do that. That's the level of retardation I deal with on a daily basis. I can't wait to see which one of you uses Brown, the head of the stationery I can't wait to see which one of you does it. But somebody will do it. So, yes, sir.
With regards to the accounting firm, I know that when they fuck it up, we can definitely sue them, but that also means accounting world is a small world. Let's say you're in Chicago.
That's fine, don't worry about that. He's meaning that if you sue PwC, then you can't they don't give a shit. They're just glad that now KPMG doesn't have to compete with PwC. When Accenture went bankrupt, not Accenture, Arthur Andersen went bankrupt, excuse me. Accenture was what they renamed the consulting. They invented or they initiated what was called value-added billing 40 years ago, where, in other words, it wasn't based on hours that they worked. It's based on how much additional revenue and profit and margin they could create through creative accounting, legal creative accounting. And they blew that whole market open. And Anderson, became from nowhere to somewhere. It used to be Big 8, and then Big 6, then Big 4. But you want those big names. But more importantly, then you can sue them for malpractice. When KPMG is on your stationery, as opposed to Schwartz and Company, your brother-in-law, there's no comparison. I won't look at financials that aren't at least the Big 6 now. Because I know in certain parts of the world, China, India, even Big 4 I question. Even Big 4 I question because of the local influence that certain firms have. So now on the 60-40, back to the 60-40, this example, we'll get back to your $10 million deal. I haven't forgotten it. The revenue is $3 million.